Hello and welcome. We're gonna wait here just a minute or two as people start to flood in here. We'll get started just after the hour, but we're glad to have you join us here today. As you're coming in, if you're wanting, go ahead and tell us a little bit where you're from. We'd love to see where we're reaching today. Chat box is open if you're interested in doing that. Riverside, nice. Welcome from Baltimore, Los Angeles, Midland. Welcome, guys. Good to have you join here today. Naples, cool. This is great. Welcome, Brad from Meridian. All right, as you're coming in here, we're just going to get started in just a minute. Welcome, Starley from Fort Lauderdale. I love seeing the reach and all the different places where people are coming in and joining us from. Houston, welcome, Matthew. All right, now just to add just a little kind of fun spin to this as well. Um, in addition to where you're calling in from, would love if you wanted to participate in this prompt. So if you found an extra $5,000 in your business bank account today, and it was 100% pure, do whatever you want with it type profit, what is the first thing that you would buy, right? And no, this is for yourself, not for the business. Vacation to Europe. That sounds like fun. Any specific place, Janet? Greece. That'd be nice. Going right to Iceland. I'd love to visit Iceland. Invest. Very smart, Jolene. A Caribbean vacation. Okay. Yes, there will be a recording after the webinar and we'll be sharing it. So, yes, absolutely. Caribbean vacation sounds so fun. Deposit into your 401k account. Awesome. Greece, an additional Reach subscription for a year. I love that. Thank you. A camping vacation. That sounds cool. Any place that you go camping, Matthew? Are you a backcountry camper or are you a motorhome camper?
I've just bought a roof tent for my van, Arthur. It's amazing.
Nice. Nice. How long does it take you to get set up?
Well, once you arrive, it takes about 30 seconds. You flick the latches on the top and it just pops up. It's fantastic.
Those things are so cool. Wow. Camping or backpacking. Love it. Too many kids, Matthew. Okay. All right, we'll just give it another minute here as people are filling in. If you're just joining us, if you had $5,000 to spend, um, say you just found it in your business and it was just this extra money that you could do anything you wanted with, what's that first thing that you're gonna buy with it? A rescue dog and pay ahead for vet visits. Okay, smart, Starly. Very cool. All right. Let's get moving here. A flight to the US and a charter a yacht. Okay. So Kimon, where are you joining us from? If you're having a flight to the USA, would love to know. Angelise, invest in a software for my business and put the rest in savings. Love it. Cape Town. Okay, very cool. Well, welcome, welcome. Okay, let's without further ado, you can go ahead and continue jumping in there if you like, but we're going to jump on to the presentation today. So, good morning and thank you everyone for joining us today. Really, really excited about the presentation, the conversation that we're going to have today. Note this is a webinar, and so you're all on mute, but we want to keep that conversation going. So if you have any questions, you want to put it into the chat, the Q&A box, the chat box are both open. And so please use those. Many of you may know Keisha from our team. We have her backstage answering for the chat today. So she's really quick on the keyboard. And so if questions pop into your mind, feel free just to throw them in. Don't have to wait. And Keisha will keep things kind of moving in real time. However, if there's a question that needs to be covered, she'll actually interrupt us and we'll jump into it and we'll answer that as well in real time. So very, very cool. Love the interaction. I want to also quickly note this is an advanced level webinar. And so we're kind of assuming a basic understanding of how Reach reporting works. And if you're new to Reach, please stay. We don't want you to go anywhere. We want you to stay with us. But I will also direct you to our weekly beginning level training webinars. And you'll see the website at the bottom right of our screen here, reachreporting.com/webinars. There you'll find access to our regular training webinars and also some special webinars that we've hosted in the past, similar to the one that you're going to be participating in today. So really quick, without further ado, my name is Arthur, and I'm the sales director here at Reach Reporting. And for the last 5 years, I say 5 years, it's almost 6 now. I've been in the trenches with accounting and advisory firms, helping them move away from manual static spreadsheets into the world of automated visual storytelling. Now, if you're here, you're likely already understand the importance of visibility. But for many firms, the conversation still gets stuck in the past. We spend so much time explaining what happened that we never get to the part that the client actually cares about. And that's what happens next. And so today, we're going to talk a little bit more about what it looks like to move beyond traditional financial reporting and into a cash first advisory approach. One that helps you clearly show your clients what their cash is doing and what it will do to help guide better decisions, help them have more meaningful conversations around profit, tax, and of course, their personal goals. Now, I'm also very excited for today's guest. If you have been in the room here for a minute or two, you will have heard his voice. He is not from the US either. Happens to be from the UK and specifically Leeds. Duncan has 25 years of experience as a chartered accountant, ranging from big firm auditing to serving as a finance director in industry. He's the founder of Genie and a chartered accountant in practice. He's also the license holder for Profit First Professionals in the UK and Ireland. Duncan has moved beyond tax compliance to building what he calls the accountability engine. He has successfully transitioned his own firm from a £59 entry-level fee to a high-value advisory model starting at £750 a month. And what I love about Duncan's approach is that it's simple, it's structured, and most importantly, it actually drives behavior change with the clients, which is so important when we're doing advisory. It moves the needle from just reporting to real-time results. And today we're going to show you how it exactly works inside a real example. So, Duncan, before we kind of get into the how, why don't you give us a little bit more context about you, your journey, kind of what you're doing today, and some of the problems that you're solving for your clients?
Yeah, well firstly, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. So I qualified as an accountant, and I won't repeat what you just give me my potted career history. And when I started my firm, we were really ambitious to help our clients as much as possible. And I was always taught that if you try and run a company on the bank account, it's like driving a car looking at the fuel tank. And then I read a book which changed my mind, which was Mike McCalloway's book, Profit First. And I realized actually, if we do it in the right way, it can be incredibly useful, but you do have to do it in the right way. And the reason it resonated with me, Arthur, was because that's how our clients look at their business. Whenever I present to a group of entrepreneurs, I'll ask them who's looked at their bank account in the past month, and they all put their hands up. And keep your hand up if you looked in the last week. They all leave their hands up. Keep your hand up if you checked in the last 24 hours. Most of the hands stay up. It's just the way humans behave. So we want to lean into that natural way people behave and use it to benefit them rather than having the bank account mislead them, which is what it will do if we don't do it in the right way.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And having been a past business owner, I know that feeling of, hey, I need to make sure there's cash in the bank to pay my bills, but also to make sure I'm making enough money and I can actually, achieve my goals and my dreams as well. And so it's that constant battle. Now, is it typically like entrepreneurs that you serve, or what's kind of your main clientele?
Yeah, so my firm specializes in e-commerce clients.
Okay.
So that's basically anybody with a Shopify account, which is, lots of people these days. So there tend to be people who maybe they start as a side hustle, and then the business gets some legs, and then they start to have all their cash flow problems, and they're having to replenish inventory, and they've got taxes to pay. So they often come to us when they're in a bit of a pickle, and we're helping to unwind it and provide some clarity and just get them thinking about it in the right way because we don't want them using their mental bandwidth on wrestling with cash flow. We want them to use that to build a firm, to build a brand, to recruit the right people, to develop their marketing. So the right systems, the right guardrails takes care of the financials and in particular the cash and enables them to do what they wanted to do in the first place, which is to set up a business that serves them, serves their family, and the oxygen of that is profit.
Hey, I love that. And that segues perfectly into my next question I have for you. You've ruffled some feathers in saying that a company's only job is to make a profit. And if it's not doing that, it's simply not doing its job.
Mm.
Now, in a world where founders are often told to focus on impact or top line growth first, why do you believe profit is one of the most important metrics that actually matters?
Yeah, it's because if your company doesn't make enough profit, and we do get a bit of resistance when we use the phrase profit first, because people sometimes misinterpret it as profit is the only thing that matters, which is not what we're saying. What we're saying is if you want to deliver your purpose, if you want to make the most impact, you have to make a profit. The profit is the oxygen that's going to help your company to grow and to have more impact. And if a company has threadbare profit, then actually you're not so much a business owner. You've just got a job and not a very good one because you're constantly working. You don't get any sick pay. You don't get any time off. You don't get a chance to invest and to lean into actually how interesting and enjoyable running a company can be. I mean, it's not always. There are always ups and downs, of course. Um, but without profits, you are you there's going to be very little joy in your entrepreneurial journey.
Basically, just own a job, right?
Own a
I've
job,
heard
own a
said,
job.
right?
Yeah.
Well, one of the secrets to success that I heard you say, specifically as it relates to moving your firm from a 59 pound a month kind of compliance fees type thing to a 750 pound per month advisory services firm, a huge part of that was standardization. Tell us a little bit about the power of standardization and how it helped kind of transform your firm.
Yeah, so we found that if we said yes to every client and we bent ourselves out of shape to serve them, whoever they were, we ended up having to relearn lots on every different client. That's why ultimately we niched into e-commerce because we understand that industry, we understand the language, we understand what matters to those business owners. That enables us to provide, we've been creating digital assets that help us serve that community. And once you've created an asset, it's gonna keep on delivering returns for you. You can then train your staff how to use it, and then the staff can then leverage it. So I'm always creating reports and using AI to create assets that I think are going to help our community. And in doing so, we're more valuable to them. We're more impactful, and we do things in our own way. So we're rather than playing someone else's game by their rules, we created our own game, and these are our rules, and this is how we do it. And if you'd like to come and join our game, you're welcome. And if we're not for you, that's okay. We don't want. We're not here to serve everybody. We're here to serve a particular community in a particular way, and they're prepared to pay a premium because we really understand them deeply.
I love that. You've essentially productized your business, your advisory, right? You're giving them a product, and if they want that product, they can come to you. If they don't, then that's fine. But in terms of like what kind of efficiencies and what kind of power is that behind the actual like behind the scenes for yourself in terms of delivering that type of service?
It's enabled us to have a much clearer pricing. So we currently offer subscription pricing. So there are three entry levels. And what that means is we pack a lot into those different packages. But when a new client comes to us, they don't say to us, how much is it? And then we say, well, it depends. It depends on how many staff you have. It depends on the frequency of your VAT returns. It depends on how many bank transactions you do. That just adds friction. So we could get rid of all of that. We just do a simple package, which includes a lot. It does have exclusions. So there are guardrails, but it means by the time I get onto a sales call with a prospect, they already know what it's going to cost. They're not going to get sticker shock. And my job is really just to get them over the line, just to get them. The marketing's done its job, and now it's much easier for me to make the sale.
Love that. Love that. And what I've seen in talking to you and others is that it also is super helpful for your staff, right? They don't have to learn or relearn a new client every time that somebody comes on. They have the same system, they know what they're looking at. And is that correct? Do you feel that?
Absolutely right. Yeah, it makes it much more. The team members can be way more impactful because the other side of that is that because we have a good number of customers in that niche, we can start to create benchmark reports. So we obviously can't reveal information to a client about the information that is on theirs, but we can tell them where they sit in a data set. So that's super helpful for them. That's really valuable for that particular client. And that's one reason that they come and they stay because we're able to push them in the right direction, to challenge them, ultimately to get that business working as effectively as possible so that it generates the profits that it needs for the owner to achieve the outcomes that they want.
That's so cool. Yeah, you become the expert, right? You become the expert
Yeah.
in that field and that methodology. And it's like, hey, if you want the expert, come to us. Which I love that. It's powerful for scaling a business.
Yes. Yeah. It certainly is. And it makes it easier, like you say, it makes it easier to train the team. But that gives them confidence on what they're delivering. So not having to think, well, that client gets something so bespoke that I can't easily replicate it for someone else. It's just very broadly the same for every client.
Love that. Now, part of the standardization method is this envelope method metric that you built that we're going to get into in just a minute when we jump into reach. But I think it's important as well for people joining us here today to understand your philosophy as you deal with entrepreneurs, talking about how important it is to leading with cash in your advisory practice and essentially how that relates to, as we're going to jump into this envelope method, how they kind of come part and parcel.
Yeah. So the reason we lead with cash is because that's what entrepreneurs understand. We as accountants, we love income statements and we understand balance sheets and accruals and deferred income. But to most clients, it's witchcraft. They don't get it. They don't really care about it. They just want to know, well, how much money I'm making and what does the future look like? And that's why we use the envelope method or profit first in the way that we deliver it in particular, because it talks the language of the entrepreneur.
Love that. Okay, I'm going to jump into a quick screen share showing the dashboard that you've created called the envelope method dashboard. And I'm just going to jump into it again. If you've been into Reach, this is a Reach template that we've created. that we'll talk a little bit more about. But
Hey, Arthur.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's one question in the chat that I think might be better if you or Duncan want to answer.
Sure.
It's in the
If you're,
Q&A.
yeah, let
Yep.
me quickly read that. If you're not charging based on transaction volume, then you're tracking profitability per client. How are you handling it if one client is sucking up direct labor hours because they have 1,000 transactions per month versus the client who only has 500 per month? Does that make sense, Duncan?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. And so we do something that we call portfolio pricing, where we accept that risk. We understand that I don't believe there is any particular client that is causing that particular issue. Um, but it's that because you've reduced the friction and because you've made it clearer about how you serve your clients, so it's easier for the team, you can be that much more efficient. So even if you do have a client who is causing those kind of difficulties, you're still making money. And also, if you have your guardrail set up correctly, you can limit that from happening. But it's a risk, um, but it hasn't hurt us.
Kind of averages out maybe. Some are going to be super easy and then some are a little bit more complex.
That's it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
our prices are not cheap. I mean, 750 is our opening point. So if we're charging 1,500, 2,000, 3,000, if they had got a lot of transactions and they need extra bookkeeping time, it's not really it would have to be a significant volume before it really causes any problems.
Okay, amazing. Well, thanks for that question and thanks for that answer, Duncan. All right, so you see some fancy charts and graphs here on the screen. Uh, Lead us through kind of what we're seeing. How does this envelope methodology work, Duncan?
Yeah, so we are setting up five separate accounts, at least five accounts. So income, profits, operating expenses, tax, and owner's pay. And you can see in there there's a couple of there's inventory and a marketing account as well. And so the reason that the profit account is there as the first account, now that's very deliberate. We want to lead the conversation with the customer about, well, how is your business performing? Because the money in the profit account, that's the scoreboard. That's telling us how the business is performing. And so we'll set up I'll call them the allocations. So it's a percentage of money that goes into each account on a regular interval. And those intervals could be different depending on which client it is. And what the charts you're looking at are showing is 6 months actual data. They're the ones that are in solid red, and then 18-month forecast data. And the forecast comes from a separate exercise that we do with the customer. Well, what it allows us to do is to look forward and think through the problems that the business and the individual might have. So we're always reminding them when their tax dates are, for example, because we're looking so far ahead. So even if we're not quite right, it doesn't really matter. We get more and more accurate the closer we get to a particular payment date. But we're reminding them you've got a tax bill due in September. Every month they get closer and closer. So we never have a conversation about I've had a surprise tax bill. I mean that just doesn't happen because we're having these conversations monthly with the customers.
That must be super reassuring to the client as you're sitting down with them and you're talking through, hey, if we just keep on where we're going, we're going to be prepared for our tax bill that's coming up or inventory or whatever it might be. Is that what you're seeing? Is that do your clients respond well to this?
That's exactly what we're trying to achieve, and it depends on what their challenges are. So it might be something as prosaic as I want to take on a new employee and I don't know if I can afford it. So we'll say, well, let's open an account. We'll call it new employee. Let's imagine they join next month and you've got to pay them. And let's just put the money aside for 3 months. If after 3 months your business has taken that strain, well, then your business can afford it because even if you took that person on for 3 months, they're not going to be that effective. So we're just going to create the illusion that that person has started it and stress the business to see if it can take it. And then when they start, you've got 3 months cash to pay their salary before they start making an impact. So we can hack the system in so many different ways depending on what that customer needs. The marketing one's my favorite ones.
Yeah,
Do you mind if I go into a little bit of detail on
please,
that?
please, yes.
Yeah. So um, especially with larger companies, you know how it is. They'll set a marketing budget. They'll say to the marketing team, "That's your budget." And if there's one thing marketing teams can do, it's spend their budget. And then if the business doesn't quite perform where you expected, the marketing team still seem to think they've got that budget. And so what we set up with, especially with our e-commerce clients, is we're going to put some money aside for the marketing budget, and the marketing team can only spend what's in that bank account. And so you never end up out of kilter with the marketing suddenly being way out of kilter with how the business is performing. They, if the board or the owners decide yes they can have more money, then they're very intentional about it. But having the system set up just means okay, so you want to do this particular campaign, can we afford it? Is the cash in the bank? We're not risking what the future looks like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, huge. That's awesome. And so what you're saying, if I'm hearing correctly, is that this it becomes a visual representation that really helps them kind of address or drive their behavior in how they're performing in their business. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We're deliberately making cash scarce because it drives a certain way of thinking. And if you put all this money into one pot, or maybe you've got two pots, maybe you've got a tax pot and then everything else, it creates an illusion as to how that business is performing. Especially when you get to sales tax or VAT, as we call it in the UK, where you get this quarterly volatility. That money definitely needs to be put to one side because that was never the company's money in the first place.
Right.
And then what I find, Arthur, is that when that client makes their first sales tax payment and they've already saved up the cash to pay it, that's like an epiphany from the thing. Right now, I really understand what we're trying to achieve here, and then we can really lean into the other aspects of the system.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, the first one, as you mentioned, is profit. Why
Yeah,
do we start there? Like why is that so important that we start with profit?
because we don't stop talking about the importance of making a profit. Um, and it might be, for example, that the company has debts, and actually we don't want money to stay in a profit account. In which case, we'll call it a debt crush account for a period of time. But equally, we want to be clear. Well, when is it a profit account? Maybe it's a debt crush account for 10, 12, 14 months. But at this point in the future, we expect this business to start putting money into a profit account. It just means the owners are so much more focused and intentional about the decisions that they make. You know how it is when you start out, you're really careful, but you're really frugal. You make do with things, and then as your business starts doing well, you buy MacBooks for the team, and we want to make those decisions really thoughtful, and so that we're driving frugality and innovation all the time, and challenging people to maximize bang for their buck. Don't let your costs get out of control.
So important because again, it goes back to that saying you started at the front, right? The only job of a business is to create a profit. Otherwise, again, you just own a job and it's stress and it's all the other kind of fun stuff that come along with being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Very cool. Now there's some real data coming in here, which is really powerful. And starts to get in a little bit of where reach can be really powerful in this. Um, how does the real time live financial data coming in directly from your bookkeeping, how does that help your team and how does that help kind of change the conversation as it relates to your client?
Yeah, so we need our team members to be that the real value they provide for the customer is in synthesizing the data and telling the story about the future. And so if they're bogged down in processing data, it just limits their capacity to do that properly. So these charts are kind of the starting point for a conversation because it allows us to see where the problems are, where the challenges are, or maybe even just reassure the owner that everything is green on the dashboard. But it gives us a really meaningful. We actually always start with these charts on our management accounts. We don't start with the P&L. We start with cash. And the feedback from our customers is that's what they want to see. That's what they now expect to see. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Absolutely. And then the fun thing about this is you not only have that actual stuff coming in directly from your bookkeeping, this is where we actually are, and this is like real time money in the bank. But then we also have these hashed marked kind of columns, which represent the forecast where where we're heading, right? And I
Yeah.
think that is really where your clients really want to understand is it's important to know where you've come from, but it's really important that for the more important question is where are we going, and is there any problems that we foresee if we're on that track?
Yeah, exactly. And for a lot of our customers in the e-commerce space, the inventory account is fundamental because you can see there you've got this kind of this volatility of the income account, sorry, the inventory account. And it may be that they make most of their sales in one quarter of the year. And so therefore they're going to have a big bill a few months beforehand. So being ready for that cycle and demonstrating that although maybe cash looks really good at the moment, but you do know we've got a massive inventory bill coming up. So let's not give everyone pay rises because we need that cash. You know, we the best phrase I can think of using is guardrails. It just makes super clear. Now that cash has a purpose. That cash has got a job to do. Um, if we're short of cash elsewhere, we're going to have to go and find it. We'll either need to create more sales, we need to look at our margins, we need to um, get more leads, whatever it is in that business that isn't quite working needs looking at. And that's where we provide value because we're not necessarily, well, we're not at all. It's not our job to solve their problems. It's our job to highlight that's where the issue is. Now we're going to explore how we can solve it together.
Okay, love the clarity, love the transparency, that visual scoreboard, like you mentioned. It's really just I can imagine so powerful for a business owner. I wish we had something like this back in the day. Now, in
Mm.
terms of personal outcomes, right? Like personal dividends, lifestyle goals, buying that holiday house, whatever that looks like. How does
Yeah,
this kind of stuff really make that stuff real for those clients?
yeah. A couple of ways. So we always have what we call an owner's pay account in the company. So the company is reserving money to pay the owner's tax bill. Now, that has various other tax implications, which I won't go into today because this is not a technical tax seminar. But it feels to the owner like the business is paying their tax. And that's a great thing to achieve if we can get to that point. But if for whatever reason that there is insufficient money to cover that person's tax bill, we've got plenty of runway. We can see that coming, and therefore we can take action with the tax authorities to account for that. We're not suddenly having to make arrangements in the last minute. We can see problems coming down the line and act accordingly and advise accordingly. And I think helping customers to avoid shocks is a big part of our value.
Love that.
That's
Any
certainly what
kind
they
of
tell us.
any cool shit stories that you can share?
We well, one of our clients wanted to relocate countries, and so that involved fundamentally reorganizing their company and their personal finances. So we laid out a plan in this way to achieve that. So they were literally able to relocate back to the UK from Southern Europe, which was an amazing personal achievement for them. I mean, buying a property in the UK is never easy because it's just expensive to buy. But that was our stated aim. That's what we that's what all the planning was for. And those they're a married couple. They achieved that outcome, and they could see progress towards it on a monthly basis, which was amazing.
Very cool. Well, this is all really, really cool, Duncan. I kind of want to just pause and talk to the advisors and firm owners that are watching right now. thinking into themselves, this looks great, but I don't have time to build this manually for 50 or 100 different clients. What's really powerful about what we're looking today is this isn't just a one-off spreadsheet. In a traditional world, if a formula breaks or if you screw up a custom Excel spreadsheet, the whole advisory conversation stops. And so now I wanted to just take a quick second and just talk a little bit about what makes, how Reach makes this so much more powerful. So there's four
Arthur?
things that I came up with. There's probably many, many more, but I thought I would just quickly run through a few of these. The first is templates. So in Reach, because you can create templates, as many of you know, there's no rebuilds, no busy work, just consistent reports and dashboards every single time. And so you can build one of these really fancy reports or dashboards for a single client and then simply copy it across to your entire client base. You're no longer selling hours. You're going back to that proven system that we talked about previously that can be deployed very, very quickly. The next one is live data. All of your data is connected directly to your bookkeeping. And so you're always working with the most up-to-date numbers. You need to make a change to your bookkeeping, you click refresh inside of Reach, and all of a sudden, all of the numbers update automatically, which can be really, really powerful when you're building scenarios and working with your clients on the different, hey, should I hire this employee or should I save up for this holiday home or whatever it is that their goals are. Now you can spend your time looking at the numbers and tracking how those envelopes are progressing towards those goals to help you make those decisions instead of jumping in, exporting from your Xero or QuickBooks into Excel and crunching and then recrunching the numbers. So live data, powerful. Next one is forecasting. Reach makes this really complex task super, super efficient and automated. Traditionally, if you've done this in the past, creating a 12-month forward-looking view, with all the different logic and the different calculations and stuff can actually be a very um, tenuous brain drain type activity. And it can make it really, really difficult for advisors. And you kind of need to have a special advisor that can handle that kind of stuff. Well, because Reach takes a lot of that complexity out of the equation, we can automate the math behind the scenes. And of course, we didn't dive into this, and we can dive into it future. We have a webinar I'll quickly plug on Fridays called Forecasting Fridays that we go into training on our forecasting tool. But essentially, we can make it very, 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 very powerful in very, very quick time. Last one is the live dashboards. So dashboards you can essentially give your clients a shareable link. They can bookmark it on their phone, their computer, tablet, whatever it is they're looking at. And essentially on demand, they can see how they're tracking against their goals, which I can imagine is just even more powerful in terms of driving home your point, Duncan, about how, this kind of stuff really drives your clients' behaviors. No logins, no searching for the right numbers. They don't have to log into QuickBooks. They don't have to log into Xero, wherever they're getting their numbers from. It's all right there. And you've created it and made it available to them, which again adds to the productization of your services that you're offering there. So essentially, when you combine these four things together, and I'm sure there's more, feel free to jump into the chat if you can see other value points. Templates, live data, automated forecasting, and live dashboards. You move from just being kind of like a reporter to being an architect of your client success. And I think, Duncan, you mentioned in the past, you call your team, you allow your team to run the engine while you're able to stay focused on the strategy. Is that what are we hearing that correctly?
Yeah, so our team they're all client facing. We have an offshore team, and they're all extremely commercially sharp and great communicators. So we just need the tools to enable them to do the job. Um, one of the things I really loved when I first started using Reach was the kind of Excel-like functionality within it, which was enough of a familiarity for me that I was able to build really quickly. And actually, I haven't done any building for quite a while. My team do that, but we were able to get benefits really quickly that enable us to drive that kind of standardization that we were talking about.
All right. Well, that's awesome. We want to get into a little bit of Q&A. If you have any questions, I noticed there's one in there. We'll definitely get to it. Please drop your questions into the chat. Of course, I will quickly also point out if you want to learn more about Reach, go ahead and use the QR code on the left to schedule a demo. And if you'd like to learn more about Duncan, or you'd like to connect with Duncan, or if you have additional questions for Duncan, please, he welcomes your connection request. If you want to connect with him on LinkedIn, you can go ahead and scan the QR code on the right. But we do have a question here, Duncan. Alicia says, Duncan, are you having clients actually set up checking accounts, savings accounts for each of these envelopes? How Profit First, Mike recommends, or are you using one checking, savings, and then the dashboards are the envelopes?
No, we use that's a very good question. We ideally we have one bank account per category. So we do have it was a challenge when the online banks came along that had pots or spaces or buckets, whatever each one calls them something different. Um, and then the tool that we developed in Reach with Arthur's team support managed to accommodate that. So it was a really lovely bit of flexibility that even though we've got a live bank account feed that will only take in the balance of the whole account, it won't identify the gaps in it because that's internal to the bank. We're still able to work out a process where we can obtain that information from the client and punch it in and still get the accuracy of the data. So that was a key challenge we had to solve and I'm delighted that Arthur your team were great in helping us to do that.
Awesome. So yeah, Alicia, hopefully that answers your question. Feel free to jump back in if you have any questions. But yeah, the goal is to have an account for um, each of those if you can. And if you can't, we have some workarounds to help with that as well.
Yeah, and if anybody has any questions on the methodology and they want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to have a conversation and do what I can to help.
One of the last things here is, again, if there's any other questions, please throw them in the chat here. But I'll finish off with this question here for yourself, Duncan. There's fear in the industry that software will replace the accountant. But I've heard you argue the opposite, that Reach actually magnifies your value. It handles the math, the manual tasks so that you can handle the relationship. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think our industry is at a really interesting point, and there's lots of potential out there. So I think software and AI will eat up a lot of the industry, but actually, I consider myself in the business of relationships. When we employ people, we're looking for people who are good communicators who can the way we describe it is that they can tell stories, they understand information, and they can talk about it. But you need the tools to do that. And the tools just enable us to get to a point as quickly as possible where we can have that really valuable conversation because it's the conversations that we have that lead to transformations for those customers. And that might be a couple of small events in the year, or it could be something really quite big over 2 or 3 years. But relationships and transformations, I know it sounds a bit Disney, but I promise you that's why we're here. That's why we'll still be here next year and the year after, because we're of value to customers in a way that software and AI can't replicate, but we still need the software to enable us to do it.
Very well said. Well, Duncan, this has been so awesome. Thank you again for spending some time with us here today. If anybody wants to learn more, again, there's the QR codes on the screen at the moment. We'd love for you to interact with us or Duncan after the webinar. As mentioned, the webinar will be sent out. The recording will be sent out, and so you can watch it and pause it and rewatch it and do all the fun stuff as you're studying some of the content that Duncan was so kind to share with us today. As well, there is a short survey after the webinar. We're constantly trying to improve. So if you could please just take a minute and answer three quick questions, that would be amazing.
Hey,
Thank you
Arthur.
for, oh yeah,
Oh, one more for Duncan, just directly in
sure.
the chat.
Yeah. Duncan, do you only do advisory services or do you end up providing accounting services as well? Good question, Leanne.
Yeah, we do both, Leanne. So we can only do the advisory to the extent that we can because we do the accounting. So and that's a condition of how we work with customers. Because we can't rely on someone else giving us the data. It has to be our format, our report, so that we can churn it in a way that works for us.
Love that. You own the whole relationship, which is
Yeah.
again magnifying what you just said there, which is awesome. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much for your time today, and have a fantastic afternoon. Bye for now.